Well, finally here at this moment, I cannot believe I'm actually here being able to talk about championship by our New York Knicks. This has been one crazy ride, and I think that term crazy is being used too much. That lost the amount of words to be able to express the emotions, the feelings, the ups and downs, the highs and the lows, the varying disappointments that have happened throughout the years, the lows of the lows, and now to be able to experience the highs. That's just something that I personally never expected to see. So going through this past 24 hours, I can clearly say I'm still in the shock because I just don't know how to express the emotions or the feelings behind seeing a New York Knicks team overcome so many obstacles where they have normally fallen and crashed down, succumb all of those things to be identified and to take a championship in 2026. Still in shock. To be able to see it, to see throughout the 5 games how this team was down double-digit points throughout the series. They gave one ridiculous stat that said that they were over 60% of the time down by double digits throughout the series. And when you normally hear something like that, that you know that the team is not functioning well, but yet at its core, this team has the ability, as they say, find a way to be able to overcome that obstacle and surpass it in a way that make it clear and distinct known that they are the best team in 2026. Still can't believe it. And it's probably somewhere deep down, I probably blocked in my mind that this will ever happen. And that's why the inability to be able to express it in a way that's clear and concise is not present. I just know that watching them perform the way they did throughout these 5 games, it clearly shows that one, they were focused, they knew what they wanted to accomplish, even though they didn't know how they were going to accomplish it. To be able to come into the playoffs this year with ups and downs throughout the season, to be able to come into a series where against a team who felt that they could actually beat you, and then to go down to that team and then change your whole offense and then start blowing every single team out, that just doesn't happen. So when you see that transpiring before you, to me, I couldn't even expect to even have a level of confidence that that was repeatable. Even though I'm seeing it repeated every single game for 13 games straight. What was it 14 games straight? That's 13. One of those numbers. Either way, cannot believe that this team put together one of the best playoff performances in NBA history. But the NBA has been in existence for 80 years and it never has something like this have happened. It's ridiculous. So when you say the emotions are all over the place, after seeing what this team put us through, oh yes, they lived up to their name, Cardiac Knicks. So much so, couldn't watch it for periods of the game because, especially like game 4. Oh, oh my goodness, game 4. It just put me in a way that how I felt about the whole season. And I know I needed to basically just sit down into my feelings and just allow what was I was seeing just play itself out. Because to predict or to project out and say that this team was going to do X, Y, and Z, that really did not seem to be of any value to anyone, primarily because it just didn't happen that way. It was never a straight line. It was never even an up or down. It was all over the place. The players on the team uh, feeling a certain way about their roles, but yet at its core, they were able to stick together. And that's what was most impressive about this, that probably should have been the silver lining in all of this. It's just to be able to see that this team had the ability to be able to um, stick together and to do what was most important, which is really become a team. So I think it's important for every single Knicks fan, and I'm generalizing it to the biggest extent, to understand and see that allowing this team to be the team that they said they were going to be is something that we can really trust in now. And that has not been something for a Knicks team that we've been able to have or say at any point in time throughout our history. I wasn't around in 1973. Well, yes, I was. I was 3 years. I was three. I was about to be 3 years old when they won their championship in May of 1973. Didn't know a lick about basketball, and to 53 plus years later, to be in a situation to see this team demonstrate the level of unity and connectivity, um, riding behind a true leader of the team, simply phenomenal. I just cannot express how grateful I am to be able to see that in my lifetime. Never thought it was going to happen. There was no way that anything that I was seeing with this team, even in the past 4 years, that gave me the confidence that they were going to be able to do it. For me, I just needed to see it happen for me to be able to jump out the window, basically. Because after last season, the letdown, and yes, I know the team last year was run down by the coach, and I don't want to put a negative on the coach. That's not what I want to do. But they were used in a manner that didn't allow them to be at their best when it was needed to be, and to have that change around where they were able to be in position this year to be at their best, not just physically but mentally. Going through those hurdles last year enabled them to see that they were that close, and with a little bit of tweaking, they will be able to get to that point. And if as I'm watching throughout the year, the tweak wasn't necessarily in the offense. The offense for a particular time, mostly primarily in this playoffs, was basically changed from what we were seeing throughout the whole year. So to have that now come about in a way that now is being expressed that they are this dominant team based upon the interchangeability of the offense, who saw that? I didn't. The confidence that was seen throughout the year of them having a greater success against teams that were over 500, what did that do? It didn't do anything for me personally because, again, they were up and down. They were losing to teams that they should not to. They were starting the games off pretty bad. So it wasn't carrying over in ways that was meaningful. So to me, it felt like they were really approaching the regular season in a manner that was just get to the postseason and we would do our thing. But if that was the real case, then those first 3 games against Atlanta would not have played about that way. And that's what's hard to see about it. And that's what really, I know for me, caused me to be very hesitant and basically just giving everything, allowing, just watching those games, heart palpitations was all over the place. I had to pause the games multiple times just to be able to calm down because of how things were going. I had to peek in and see that if something was good, okay, I can come back now. I can come back now to my team. Even in their comebacks, still felt that it wasn't something that I can just buy in. They're gonna just do something stupid in this wind up feeling, but that didn't happen. Even in game 3, when they were down by points, they would make themselves come back. They got close and got close. They just couldn't overcome for whatever particular reason. In game 3, they wasn't able to replicate what they were able to do in games 1 and 2. And that's fine. But it was really interesting to see in game four. They're falling behind by those 29 points, and leading even into the third quarter. And I mean, that's phenomenal. And then even in the fourth quarter, down by 20 points in the fourth quarter. It just was, who thinks that? 1% chance at that point in time when they were down by 20 points in the fourth quarter, and yet they did it. That moniker of they'll find a way, it's true. That's basically what they did. And so, because of that, we NBA champions, baby. We are NBA champions. I can't believe saying that. That's just something that just happy to see. I really never thought that. And looking at this picture here, it puts me in a space where there's so many different stories that can come from this. You know, looking at the owner, there were many negative thoughts that was felt throughout his tenure taking over the team from 1999, and then seeing how the team from 2001 and on just sputtered in so many different ways, being at the low on the totem pole and so and the fodder of everyone else in the league. And a lot of negativity was thrown his way. Yeah, but it's interesting that when you hear about the owner, that how from a player standpoint they loved him because of what he gave, and that's hard to see because you have someone giving everything to where everyone feels comfortable with you, and yet the results on the floor doesn't speak to those points. It just felt as if the players were taking the money and just being happy with that, all the luxuries of it. I'm not saying that happened, but it just felt that way, just weird. But to have a team where the priority was truly to win a championship, it took a minute for that even to happen. You know, when Brunson came here 4 years ago, um, still seeing this as a possibility, I knew we would be better. I knew it would be more of a stable organization. Yes, and he seeing his winning ways from college itself was, gave me that confidence that at least that was possible, but not this. That this is totally far left. Totally happy to see it. Totally happy to be in a position to be able to say that my Knicks are going to be able to have a walk through the canyons this coming Thursday, and to possibly be present during that, because I know it's going to be crazy. You're going to have Knicks fans coming from all over the place. I'm just hoping that I can make it down there. And that is my goal and desire, to be present, to see my guys tour that Broadway area and come up to City Hall, if that's going to be the route as they have been in the past. Looking forward to that. That's going to be something that has not been seen, as we've said already, over 50 years. But for many of us who've been Knicks fans, me, since 1978, 79 season, never seen this in my life. Getting close in 94 and 99. In fact, as I'm thinking about all this, back in 94, when they was up 3-2 going back to Houston, I felt very confident. And, and the results of that probably was what caused me to have that pause. Never wanted to be fully all in saying they're going to do X, Y, and Z. But that's how I felt even when they went back to San Antonio, or rather when they came to New York, after going up two zip. Felt that they still needed to win game 3. And after they lost that game, the weight of 94 to me came into play, because all that I can think of was those 2 games that I thought they were going to be able to put it away. It was a phenomenal game 6 with John Starks at that point, but Elijah Wan's one finger touching that ball, which was going to lead to a win for us, didn't happen because of somebody else. And that's what was the fear, I guess, going into game 3. And after we lost that game, and seeing what transpired the first half of game 4, that wave and that pressure, I guess, of 94 came back into my mind too, because that was just a stressful day, just seeing that transpire. And then to have the unexpected comeback and to win the game by 1 point, that's what you see, champions. They found a way. And That's all that I can say. So I know I needed to sit down with my feelings with this. This was not something that was weird because when they won the game, I thought I was going to be jumping up and down, snot crying all coming down on my face. None of that happened. It was a shock that I was basically in. I didn't sleep. I was up until about 6:30 this morning. Just up. Couldn't just allow myself to rest because of what I've just seen. Not jubilation, not um, uh, not tears of joy. I guess just more just shock that this is actually something that is true. The New York Knicks, 2026 NBA champions. Shock. So the interesting part about where I'm at now is that it really spoke to why I was very inconsistent this year with my activity here on my channel. I probably had about eight. This is like my eighth or ninth episode when they're basically 26 weeks into the season plus playoffs. I think last year, looking at last year and how things transpired, putting life getting in the way. That's one thing, but just seeing how, uh, for a lot of my comments were mostly redundant based upon what I had seen last year. I felt that there was less of a need to be that so much into the mud with this team because what was going to happen in the regular season was not going to matter in the playoffs. I felt that way unknowing to what I was able to accomplish. And what I mean by that is I know I was less frequent, but I couldn't answer why. And I just had to think about it. I had to look and see. I looked back to last year and I saw this team had the most wins they've had in a long time. However, their performance against teams over 500 was horrible. They were dominated in the regular season. But what happened in the playoffs? Against Detroit, the team that dominated them in the regular season, in the 24-25 season, they beat them in six, convincingly still. Boston, coming back 20 points, down 20 points in both the first two games, and then beating them again in game four, and then cleaning it out in game six. Boston killed us last year. We dominate them in the playoffs. And if the team didn't run out of gas against Indiana, well, first, before, not even just that, not run out of gas, but I think that in the first two games, they just didn't respect their opponent. I felt they was on that high and didn't close out like they should have, and it allowed that Indiana team to get confident, and it showed throughout the rest of the play, resulting into their demise. And of course, they can't play with their food, which is what they did. And so, seeing what transpired last year, what I was seeing in this regular season, I put it in that same category, apparently emotional. That despite what I was seeing, even though it was the opposite, they were being much more effective against teams over 500. At the end of the day, I was telling myself, one, it's not going to matter. Why? Because they're losing to teams that they should be beating. They should have had a 60-win season this year. Didn't happen. 53 wins, nothing. They weren't apparently playing for a position. So why should I get overly emotional or highly sensitive and give up these great views or viewpoints and assessment analysis of the team's performance? But at the end of the day, they're going to play for just the postseason. And that's what I guess to me contributed toward the inconsistencies in my ability to be able to speak to my audience here. But that's why I think that was the primary reason. Yes, as I said, life is one aspect, but despite life was still the same way in the 24-25 season, and still was very active. Made sure I was doing it every single week. But I guess I was was into my feelings basically about how this team was performing, how they approached the regular season. And I just wanted to see the playoffs, how they were, how I get started. And I think that even posting during the playoffs, I didn't want to commit myself because they had the confidence of I didn't think it was going to happen. So saying that, how it played out, even though they were destroying teams, I was enjoying seeing the results of that. I was enjoying feeling that this team could at least get to the finals because I knew that even though Philadelphia had a very uh, a very capable team that could put some damage on the team, especially after what they had done to Boston. But we just had that number, and the same thing with Cleveland had that number. I didn't have any doubt in my mind that they were not going to be able to beat them. I didn't think they would sweep them. Very happy that they did because it allowed the teams to maintain their health, which is what they needed to have in order to do what they needed to do in the finals. Which I'm very thrilled to see that. It was very clear that it was a major focus of this team to after they realized that they were playing with their food in the first three games against Atlanta. They had to really do something about what was going actually happening on the court. And by making that adjustment, they made the right decision to uh, focus their offense based upon the weaknesses of their opponent. They knew that Atlanta didn't have any big men. Towns has the ability to be able to see over the defense and has demonstrated the ability to be able to be a great passer. And that passer is being able to see the floor and getting the ball to his teammates in a way that they enable them to have an easy basket. And that's a really good passer. It's not just getting someone the ball, but in a position to make the next play. That's what he was doing. And the counter for that by those teams was minimal. You know, even from when they played against Philly. And B really couldn't pressure the ball. He couldn't since he was operating the offense above the foul line. And B was in his weak space defensively. And so Towns really had the freedom to be able to do what he wanted. And even with Cleveland, Mosley, even though he is tall, it's not strong. And Towns took advantage of that in various ways. And of course, Mitch was going to dominate them anyway, so that was never a concern. So having the confidence to be able to get over these opponents was something that I felt. I felt each time they can definitely win this series. But as I mentioned, I didn't see them sweeping them at the point. Let's see, sweeping them the way that they did. They destroyed those teams. I was happy to see it because again, it kept them healthy and it kept them in the point to where they can keep their focus. So when it came down to the finals, it was just a matter of them being in position to be able to execute. But just before we get there, it's interesting to note that you probably didn't think it was going to happen anytime, but the possibility always existed. When a team wins the NBA Cup, you would think that team has a leg up in the ability to be able to tasting a championship or tasting some recognition or some winning some award. And the drive to want more of that should be present with that same team. And if that was the case with this team, I'm happy for it because there's nothing like winning whatever awards that is presented by the team or by the league. And this is one of them. And even though wasn't important enough to be able to put the banner up, which I clearly understand, and was premature on anything else because the priority was winning the NBA Finals. To look back now and say that you've done both, you won basically every single award. You won the NBA Cup for the midseason. You won the playoffs in the Eastern Conference to be able to get to the finals, and then you won the finals. You did it. So this team definitely showed themselves to be worthy as being identified as the champions of this year. But as I mentioned, the lows of this season also kept me away from being able to say what this team's needed to do. I look back at my win-loss record, and it was horrible because what I projected out didn't transpire for. I projected that this team should win 60 games, and they basically won barely even got close to 55. They won 53 games this year. Because again, playing with their food, they struggled mightily throughout the regular season in various ways, and I'm just happy they was able to rectify that in the playoffs and get to the point to where the vibes will change around this team. Even though it started off bad, they was able to correct it. But they were true cardiac Knicks throughout the regular season and basically in the beginning of the playoffs. Because after going down one game to 2-1 to Atlanta, I felt real bad. I was annoyed. I was so mad at this team. It didn't make any sense. And so even they started to make that turn to not only just win, but win significantly in a significant way, I should say. It still didn't bring me to the point to where I felt that they had great confidence that they were going to be able to do the ultimate job and win the whole thing. But they did. That shift came quickly. It gave them the confidence. It reaffirmed in their minds that this team that we're looking at right here, could be champions. And as long as they continue to keep together, stay together, blocking out the noise, because there was so much noise coming from so many different areas against this team. And still, even to this day, even after the win, still more shots to them as well. But I do feel now this team with the head of the snake being Brunson, they have the ability to be able to block it out and put themselves in position to do more. And we'll see what that more is. Not going to speak to that, not going to worry about that, not even going to talk about that. But the fact that they are able to be able to get to this point and in the manner in which they have done so, then not putting anything, no lower standards for this particular team for myself. I know they can reach the mountaintop. I know they can do it. My ability to be able to enjoy the game now and not feel watching in the cardiac state should be now be present, because that's just something that just it's not enjoyable to have to watch a game in that state. Oof, heart palpitations is bad, and this team would do it to you. But I'm just happy to be able to see it. Um, there's one, just like with many Knick fans, over a 50-year period, the generations that saw the first two championships by this team, um, a lot of them probably were not around to be at now to be able to see this point. When you look back at that team, the '73 team, Clyde really is like the only active member from that team. And just thinking back to it, y'all know Bill Bradley's still around, but I'm not aware of his health. But I'll say that. But Clyde is still active, traveling with this team, giving his views in a very Clyde manner. And so thrilling to be able to see. My first pair of sneakers of importance were his. I had my Clydes, my blue and white Pumas. I love those things, but he's still around. I know Earl is going through his health issues, but yeah, he's still alive. But yet still, Clyde is really active, and I'm happy to see that and be able to see what um, you know later on throughout this will give my tribute to my guys. You'll see why Clyde is so important, because I know he was him and Earl Monroe, who I also met as well, are key to bringing a smile to my father's face. So I was very thrilling to be able to see that, and hopefully I don't get too misty out here at this point. But being able to see that, well. But as I said, many of the in that 50-plus year period, many of those who saw that last championship are not here, and for many of us as fans, not being able to share that with that person is a struggle. So I know that for those who find themselves in that situation, same here as well. You know, the bitter part about this is not being able to experience it with my pop. We talked about this all the time. We fought over it many times. You know, bringing him to a Knick game. I'm very happy to have brought him to a Knick game and it contributed toward his winning streak. Never having gone to a game at the Garden with the Knicks, and never seeing them lose. So I'm happy for that. So he definitely would have enjoyed seeing this, and I definitely would have enjoyed sharing it with him. But just happy to see that point. But I'm not gonna go crazy into that point, because that would just bring me down at this point. But I'm just happy to be able to do it. and look forward to sharing more joys with all those at the parade, because that's going to be something that's going to be enjoyable. But I wanted to share something um, while I'm talking about the championship. Just put together a little slide just to be active. Uh, Talks about my fandom with my Knicks is me, 3 years old. All my pictures in my blue and white, blue and orange, and family pics, blue and orange, always with the Knicks. My favorite Knick, Patrick. And of course, you'll see a little bit later my two favorite Knicks. My introduction to the Knicks came from in my pops when we got a chance to meet Clyde at his restaurant. Although he's met Clyde, but we first time us meeting them together. That was a good point. Him looking like a little kid waiting online to get Clyde's autograph. That was funny. So that was a funny day. And of course, Earl and Mr. Bradley, being able to see them and talk to them, it's a good time. We was able to do that. So that was about back in 2012. And of course, Oak, I've seen Oak many a times, go to his car wash all the time. So I've had many conversations with him, but it was a joy to be able to be present with that and share that with my pops. And so looking forward to talking that through with others about that, based upon this little memory. But the most important thing is team won, man. Whenever I go to the Garden and the team wins, I got to make a caption of that. And so again, this one here is my three favorite Knicks growing up. I was the biggest Sugar Ray Richardson fan. I loved watching him play. My first time watching in that 78-79 season, when his rookie season, with him and Ray Williams in the background, me in the backcourt. My cousins introduced me to basketball, how to think basketball at that time, and they were 5 to 10 years older than me, so they were well aware of the Knicks. And so being able to talk about, Clyde, because although he wasn't on the team at that point in time, they talked about him. But seeing how Sugar Ray played, I just loved watching him play. So when I got an opportunity to get that jersey, I made sure I got it. And then, of course, with BK, he came right after that. Beautiful trade. I enjoyed watching him play. I was saddened when he didn't get a chance to play with Patrick. Being a Big East fan, I adored Patrick. I adored anyone that dominated the Big East. That was always the thing. And so to see him, be present with him and be there at his retirement, that was always a beautiful thing, being able to share that with my stepmoms. And so it was clearly a joyful time. So my Knicks fandom has always been prominent. I've enjoyed watching this team and then being able to see this. Um, that was just a phenomenal play. Oh my goodness, the tip, and being able to see it from different vantage points, it was just lovely. And my little takeaways from all of this as well, being able to see, and of course, as they call Brunson, that leader, going up against the Goliath there, and just seeing how he was able to do what he needed to do to win this series, and he did it. And that's me, of course. So I certainly did enjoy seeing my granny, my uncle right there, being able to have a family experience with the Knicks. That's something that, as a family, we enjoy. And it's me and my little missus. We enjoyed it. And of course, this little uh, uh, time that we spend together, always about the Knicks. So again, it's been a joy to be able to experience this. I look forward to being able to talk more about the Knicks. But at this stage in the game, it's something that you really can um, just don't want to get too deep with it because you can really get lost in your emotions with all that. But I got one last thing wanted to do because um, been a Knicks fan since 1978-79 season. This has been um, a joy to be able to look back to all the players that have played with the Knicks that I had some affinity with. That's a good amount of players. They stood out. Just talking with friends in the 80s, friends in the 90s, and the 2000s. It's a total different conversation when you talk about those time periods. And of course, a variety of players. So I wanted to make sure they get acknowledged. They did not, these players did not get an opportunity, well, did not win the chip. And that's unfortunate. But they do get an opportunity to be recognized because they put time in with the Knicks. And so, being able to see that, being able to do that, is a joyful thing. And I want to be in position to always find myself to be able to share that good time with them. It's enjoyable seeing it's right. Sugar. So these are some of my favorites. BK. So uh, true point guard, Mark Jackson. Straight. Yes, yes. I remember that draft. I did not. I didn't know what they had at that time. I tell you that much. You can just imagine if they would have really explored that. Rory Sparrow. I can't believe that. Yeah. So it's a true joy to be able to see it. Um, allow this team to be um, a dominant team in my heart. When I first started to looking at sports, it was football first, baseball, basketball. Age 7, I was lived across the river from Yankee Stadium, and so during that World Series in October '77, and hearing Reggie Jackson hit those 3 home runs, I heard the roars from the stadium. Just living in Harlem, you can hear it. But when I started watching basketball and being able to watch it in that '78, '79 season, as I mentioned, those guards, they stood out to me. And that's where my affinity for point guard play came from. And then, of course, um, the focus that BK had when he was on the court, that was me when I was able to get of age. And then being able to demonstrate to have a defensive mindset. That was always me. I was not the tallest, so I had to do things on the other side to make sure that I found myself to be effective on the court. But oddly enough, football, I wound up in that first football game that I actually understood watching was that Cowboy game against the Steelers, and they lost that game. But Dorsett and Starbuck stood out to me. And that's what began my affinity for the Cowboys. But throughout that introductory to sports, the Knicks stood out, and that's all that it was. I was always the biggest Knicks fan. I couldn't help it. And seeing them through the highs and the lows throughout that period was something that um, was hard to see. But I enjoyed the time of being able to watch them. Um, the beginning portion of it was a pure point guard play. That was the dominant way of playing in the beginning in the '70s and '80s. Point guards were if you didn't have a competent point guard, then you really suffered. You really couldn't get your team into offense. You really couldn't set yourself up. And if you had a very dominant defensive point guard like Sugar Ray was, you can accomplish the world. And so that's what I saw from that team. And unfortunately, we didn't have him long with the Knicks. And when BK came in, we didn't have him long with the Knicks. And could you imagine having those two active participants when Patrick came aboard? Ugh, totally different outcome. Definitely would not have been 53 years of having to wait for a chip. But I can't speak that way. That didn't happen. So, I don't want to belabor that process. But the unfortunate part about it in the '80s didn't didn't have great GM play. Building a team around Patrick was a challenge for our GMs. For whatever motivations that they had, it became very clear that putting a team together to win a championship was not the most important thing because it didn't show it showed itself clearly on the court. But then couple that with coming up against MJ, that beast there, when he took control of the league, there was no looking back. And when we had an opportunity when he went away, that little finger by Hakeem just kept us down. And we had it again after he retired. Patrick gets hurt. So we had to go up against Twin Towers without our own Twin Towers. Because Marcus Camby and Patrick Ewing would have been effective against them at that point in time. But again, we lost out on being able to take advantage of getting the proper play, proper team around. It's unfortunate that came later on. That team with Latrell and Allen Houston, LJ, um, Camby, um, that team was something with a healthy Patrick. And it's unfortunate that was during the lockout season, so they really didn't have a means to be able to get things together. And they too struggled throughout the regular season, but turned it on in the postseason to be able to do what they needed to do at that time. But the saddest part about all this is in the 2000s, for that 20-year period, man, that was a struggle. We had how many GMs during that time period? 7. GMs with the last seven, one being Leon Rose. Oh my goodness, that was just it's crazy. It's crazy. Having Scott Layden try to make the New York Knicks into a Utah team. Isaiah, who was a great evaluator of talent, but didn't know how to spend the money and put us in bad situations and caused us to really be behind the eight ball when it came to being able to make moves, be free to make moves. He was in debt by the way he spent his money. And as good as Donnie Walsh was before he ended in the Pacers, I was totally disappointed in his efforts. I heard his interview there when he first was hired, and he proclaimed that the Knicks were returning back to what epitomized the Knicks was a defensive team. And then in his first move, what does he do? He brings on the coach D'Antoni, who's the opposite of defense. That right there told me that there was something else was going on. And when Grunwald came on after Donnie Walsh left, Isaiah was in his ear, so he still couldn't be effective. And then it got even worse with Phil Jackson coming aboard. He was just there for the money, and so that was just a disappointment as to how the waste of talent that we had during that time, because we had talent on those teams. Mills and Perry, they actually did a good job in just stabilizing, um, bringing us out of the dirt from where those last five GMs have put us in, and they got us to a point to where we can at least get on the ground level. Can't say the foundation was being laid; they were building it. Leon just picked it up from there and implemented a way that made some moves. And one thing about his moves that he's made, I'm not going to say that every move was right or perfect. He made some just bad decisions, and some of the ones that he made, but he didn't do it in a way that caused us that we couldn't get out of it. You think about it. Yes, the Fournier free agent signing was, when he signed him, I think it was a horrible one. It was too much money for his skill set. Didn't think that he was going to be that much of an impact on a player. Um, that was just a waste of money. But it didn't handcuff us. We was able to get off that money and find a way to get around it, even with the Cam Reddish trade. Was able to get him. We lost a pick to get him, and now we lost another pick to have to get rid of him. So it didn't hurt us, but when we got Josh, I was thrilled. And knowing how he was with Villanova, I watched those Villanova teams and I saw his play. I definitely wanted him to be utilize the various skills that he had or build upon them. He still was a straight line player, so he didn't have any wiggle to his game and never really built up any wiggle. For whatever particular reason, that's just Josh. But his effort is what's really going to be the play. So, but being able to get those players and lay the foundation, the Kemba signing, I understand what he was trying to do, but it just wasn't the one that was in our best interest. I know he wanted to stabilize the team and getting a point guard aboard. And I don't know if he's just being nice, but the Kemba move wasn't the right move, and it didn't enable the team to continue to be unified. And that was a challenge. But when the year after that, when Brunson came aboard, at least we had the makings of the team becoming one. And so being able to see that happen, and Rose was the one who had the vision to be able to do it and was able to execute upon that vision in the manner in which we see now with them becoming champions. And that was a great team. The coaches during that time period was too many, too many. But just talk about Larry Brown during that time. Oh my goodness, the total failure. He really, to me, was just there for the money. I don't even think he had really any interest of really putting his best effort at that time. And that was just sad to see because it was a train wreck at that point. When Van Gundy left, I understood that he was going through whatever he was going through, and he had to take time for himself and had to do that. So I can't feel bad about it, but it definitely put us hand strapped our team. I know Don Chaney had a challenge. Um, he had an opportunity there because it was still spring and was still there, but he couldn't bring it together for a variety of different reasons. And Mr. D'Antoni, that gimmicky offense was just not for the Knicks. I'm sorry. As exciting offensively as it may have been, we knew that I knew. I would just say that team was never going to be effective in the playoffs. So that was the most important thing. Was it playoff worthy? It was not, especially the team that we had. And even though Mike, he had an opportunity, he did well taking over for D'Antoni and putting an offense and defense together that kept them together. They ran out of gas against Indiana, sadly, and thought they could do things better. But being able to run it back was a challenge. Since they wasn't able to run it back, we went back into the gutter. And right after that, I think it was six of different coaches that we had in that short period. Who was it? Fisher, um, um, Rambis, Hornacek, Fizdale, Miller, oh Mike Miller. Oh my goodness, they got caught up in all the mud based upon bad decisions by the GMs at that time. So I can't put it on them. But at the end of the day, it's all about the players. And what you're seeing here is a just a tribute to the various players who won his teams between that 78 to in the 2000s to current, who are who did not win a chip with this Knick team here. So I just want to give them acknowledgement because, as I said, once a Knick, always a Knick. And these guys, they put in a sweat and tears and a lot of enjoyment just being able to watch them. I might go here. So it was just it was a joy to be able to just look back and put this together, even with Charles Smith. He's the biggest guy. I love the way he played in Big East. When he came here, he caught in the middle. How to be a finesse player, in the East, that was a challenge. So he found his way. He had good moments. They expected more from him that he could possibly give, and I didn't know what he really was, and that was a sad thing. But this is the team. You see, Mike? That's the team. That's the team. That was the 78, 79, 80 team. That was a picture of. So definitely was a joy to be able to see that. Just bring you back to my childhood. But I think the most of the time, because the GMs were in a position of just looking for a savior for the team, looking for just one player, that it's a lot of fluff. You don't find the right one, and that constant struggle to find that savior was something that was clearly apparent. And yeah, they fell into a trap too by not having they didn't have a point guard throughout all that time. Since um even with Doc Rivers and Ron Harper, no, Derek Harper, when they came to the Knicks in '94 to '96, um, they were older point guards at the time, but we saw the value because, of course, there was a strong front court play, and they needed a point guard to be able to take advantage of that. But after that, never really investing into a point guard that will be able to lead them in a proper way. Don't know why that was a priority, and you couldn't find one, and that was a challenge. So, but happy to see give these guys some love. Tyson Chandler there, Wilson Chandler. So it's nice guys to see. And one guy that did miss doing all this, Charlie Ward. It's not there. Charlie Ward, yeah, that's the guy I need to make sure I recognize too. Even though I don't have a picture of him on there, so I just realized that. Charlie, 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 Charlie. But it's still a joy. Mhm. So, what's the future now that we won? Don't know. Don't know. This is a territory that I'm not too aware of. Um, we've um, never been in this position before to now have a team that we can be happy with, and we can look toward the future with, and be in position to um, be in a position to have a greater prospect for the future. That's something that never really had before. You know, um, so what do we do in this space? It's like this is a brand new world. I don't know how to be a champion. That's basically what it is. How do we be champions now? And that's I guess that's the thing here. How do we be champions? That's the key. Saying this, how do we go to the next step from here? I don't want to get too caught up in the next steps because I want to be present with this. After the parade and after um, the weeks following that, primarily I just want to have a summer to be able to enjoy being a champion. Walking around with my Nick hat, Nick shirts, Nick shorts, my jerseys. I look forward to putting them back on, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to leave my jerseys the way they are. They are um, hanging for me to enjoy and bring back some joy in just looking at them. Whether I will get some new ones, don't know. It's been I've been hesitant to purchase any jersey, even when Carmelo came. I wasn't going to buy his jersey unless he won a chip. I have his jersey from Syracuse. Yes, that's the only jersey. Well, no, I have two Syracuse jerseys. I have the original back from '88 Syracuse jersey. You will not believe who it was. Billy Owens. It's weird, right? It wasn't Pearl. Why wasn't it Pearl? I couldn't find Pearl back in '88, and they weren't selling them like they were selling them today anyway. But I digress. But I have Melo's jersey from back when he won the chip in '03, so I have that jersey, and that's also framed up as well. So, but having his jersey with the Knicks, I really wanted him to win the chip for me to be able to buy it, and since he didn't, I didn't buy it. My favorite player from Syracuse. Um, Anytime somebody talk about Melo, they get the fire. But he didn't accomplish what I was hoping for him to accomplish here, and I'm sad over it. It didn't happen. A variety of different reasons, and so we'll just leave it there. But most importantly, I'm just going to enjoy the summer. I'm going to enjoy this team. I'm going to enjoy looking at all these pictures, seeing myself when I was little, introductory into basketball, wearing my neck colors. That's going to be fun. Seeing my family wear the colors as well. It was Patrick? What's up, guy? And so it's going to be enjoyable times. Um, you know, my motivations is popped. We got a chance to see Clyde again. Get a chance to be able to walk about and with pride wearing my Knick colors. It's going to be interesting to see the response from people. Over the years, there's been a lot of comments every time you wear the hat or wear the colors in itself. Um, but it's going to be a joy to be able to wear that now. But I know my view toward this team hasn't changed. Still love them. Will always love my Knicks. And there's nothing that can replace now that they are champions. But I know going forward, at least, but no, I don't have the fear of being able to watch a game now and fear that even though they will be cardiac points, I just know because of what they've just done in the manner in which they've done it, that they have the ability to overcome it and be successful. And so I should be in a better position to be able to not have less, but just to have less heart palpitations while watching games. I hope that's the case. And if so, my whole approach toward, my critique or assessments of the team and the games in which I watch will be reflective of that. But at its core, I'm still just a dude from Harlem that loves his Knicks. That's basically it. And to leave it, right there and see that Al Brunson put it best, finding a way. And that's what they did. We know that because of that, the Knicks won. This is my first Knick bag. I still have it. I got that bag in '84. That's crazy. I can't believe I still have that bag. Wow. Um, yeah, wow. Yeah. These are all my guys. That's being at Packers retirement, that was fun. As I said, my stepmom, she hooked us up, hooked me up for that one. I love her for that too. Reminds me, I have to give her a call. And these plays, these pictures just reflective of my appreciation for the season, appreciation what I just saw, and seeing how these teams can have an impact upon your life. And I just enjoy being able to be a Knicks fan at this time. So looking forward to seeing your comments, any response you have. Certainly appreciate it. But just know I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is. And my Knicks always going to be who they are. My Uncle Jimmy, my granny, we definitely going to be yelling and screaming when we see each other and just enjoying everything that we have. So I'm just thankful to be able to, I'm grateful to be able to see this championship. And because of that, I can peacefully enjoy watching the Knicks after this as well. But again, I'm going to sign off right now. It's that dude from Harlem who loves his Knicks. And that's what it is.